Obviously, we put out the release about the foreign tour, so we're extremely excited about that. And I just figured if you guys weren't covering SEC football, I'd give you something to do today. So you didn't have to sit there and watch the guys being interviewed on television all day.
Frank, I know that, it's guys play with each other during the summers. It's not like it was 25 years ago. But how much does this speed the kind of getting to know you bonding process that you guys are going to have to go through, before practice starts?
Yeah. Pete, it's an interesting dynamic, and it gives us 10 practices to understand our players, for us to see what they can do and can't do, and some of the structures that we put in place. Because as coaches, we sit in an office and we say, okay, let's put this guy in this area and let's do this with him. And then when you actually go on the court and they do it, you're like, he can't do that. So something you thought in a room that would be a great idea is absolutely a pathetic idea when you go on the court. So it gives us the opportunity to teach the new guys, go through some of that with our team. But it's a different dynamic. I've got to be careful how I manage, because now we're practicing and playing games in August, which means I can't start these guys too soon in August. They'll be burnt out by February. So, especially the older guys. So it's we got to handle this summer a little differently than we have. This is my first foreign tour, so it's a little something different than what I've done in my time.
What goes into picking the location? I know there's a bunch of these. How did you guys settle on Costa Rica?
I'll be honest with you. I want to go to the other part of the world. I'm not real comfortable. I just came from there. I just spent 8 days in Spain, and I wish I could tell you I was there vacationing. I was actually working, but I don't know if I was real comfortable traveling with our team over there right now, and it's unfortunate. So want to stay a little closer. Part of this whole trip is an educational thing. It's not just playing games. It's an ability for us to expose our guys that, the ones that live in other countries, they know that life in the United States is different, but the guys that live here, they have no idea how people live in other countries. So it's part of this whole experience is the educational part of it. We will do community service while we're in Costa Rica. We will visit historic areas of that country to get our guys to understand that, unfortunately, with some of the things that have happened, our guys are young and they don't understand how people live in other places, and they're led to believe that maybe our country is not right. And it's an opportunity for them to understand that we live in a great place, that in reality 99% of the time is better than most countries in the world. And so we want to put our arms around the whole thing. Team bonding gives us the ability to just spend time with each other, stress-free environment. They're not passing out trophies for the games that we play down in Costa Rica. So we want to compete, we want to get better, we want to win, but it's going to be stress-free. So all those things go into consideration, and I thought Costa Rica offered the best opportunity.
You always talk about this being the me time for your players to work on some of their stuff. How does this change that dynamic?
Yeah, you can ask them. We haven't done a single team-oriented drill all summer. Everything's about helping each one of them to become better players. Those 10 practices, it's about the team. The practices will be stress-free. See, here's the thing. Practices in preseason are stress-free. They're aggressive. When it gets a little complicated is when the games start, because now we all get judged on winning and losing. I've been through it for so long that I've become somewhat immune to public opinion. However, we're still human beings. There are days that I don't like what you guys report, or I don't like what somebody puts on Twitter, which is the only social media thing I do. But I'm old enough where I think I can try to handle that to the best of my abilities. The kids that are 18, 19, they get stressed out because of public opinion a lot. And that makes it hard to practice stress-free. But with all that said, That's part of the whole thing. That's why seniors handle things better than freshmen, because they've been through it. They comprehend, but we got to kind of combine both things. And that's what I'm saying. This is the first time I do it, a foreign tour. So this is going to be a learning experience for me too. I've got to handle this the right way.
Do you let maybe Dwayne and Sin and the older guys kind of take the lead in practices, these kind of practices during the summer?
Absolutely, Pete. Absolutely. That's why we're doing it. Last year, Michael and Sindarius were pretty much the two vocal guys that came into practice every day and got guys going and all that. Well, someone else is going to have to take Michael's voice, and it's a great opportunity to do that. It's a great opportunity for the older guys to. Every team, you've heard me say this before, every team has a different personality. I don't care how many players you return. Every year, the team is different. You got better experience when you return guys, but the personality is always different. This allows those guys to start helping create the personality that next year's team is going to have to be identified by. But absolutely, those older guys and my staff. I haven't made the final decision on it yet. I will, but I think I'm going to remove myself from the floor. I'll be here. I'll travel. I'll sit down in meetings with the staff, but give my staff the opportunity. Give Matt Figger a chance to start calling timeouts and conducting a practice, and Perry and I just hired Bruce. Give Bruce the ability to his voice be heard more now. So the players learn how to trust those voices a lot more come next season.
Every team may be different, but one of the things your team always embraces is 8K8. How special is it to see you go out in the community in the way that they are?
Yeah, I feel bad that the last couple of days I was on the road recruiting and wasn't with them doing some of these functions. I know tonight we'll be at Brooklyn Baptist, and I believe tomorrow night we got the Special Olympics in here. But it's Brian, I think it all goes hand in hand. There's a reason, and I know that with the attendance numbers that are put and whatever, we average close to 13.5 a game, because if you don't count the NIT games, that's where the average was at. And when you take in consideration that we had 3,500 people here the first game I ever coached in this building, I think all those things are connected as to why that's happened. Our players are more mature. They're more understanding of their responsibilities. As our guys move on and find success, one of the greatest things about succeeding is that you have to be prepared to give back. It's part of the educational process. It's part of my job. And I know people want to sit there and say, you got to win games. Yeah, got to win games for me to keep my job. I understand that. But I still have a responsibility to educate our players every day. It's not fair to win games and send them out to society unprepared. Learning how to give back is very important, and we talk about that. And you can talk about it and it sounds good, but you actually got to go out and do it. I think our guys have really embraced that whole thought process.
Coach, I just want to. What's one thing you want them to walk away with, players, after this trip, and be able to put that into their game?
Well, when you go away from home, those players have to learn how to coexist and communicate with one another. When they're on campus, they communicate when they're around each other, but let's say they're not best friends, which happens. If people think that every team, everyone's huddled up and they walk around holding hands around campus, and some guys don't hang out together. Well, on a trip like this, who are they going to hang out with? It forces them to communicate with each other. It forces them to communicate with the coaches, because we're all huddled up in the same hotel, in the same environment. And that's the biggest part. We all get to know each other a little better. And that's what I want to see happen on this trip. Outside of the practices and the games, which are important, but that's not what it's about. The educational experience, that's a big part of it. But for us as a team to understand one another a little better, to learn how to coexist in each other's space, and because that's what you got to have. People talk about chemistry. Chemistry is not guys singing Kumbaya walking down the street. Chemistry is that understanding and respect factor for what each one of us is about. So when we're around each other, we respect each other and can coexist with one another. That's how you build chemistry.
Coach, just want to go back to that, what you were talking about with the coaches and what you want to see from them and give them more of a voice. Is that more so in the offseason practice, or even going into games as well? Because you said something about not be as active on the floor as you normally are. I didn't know if that was just a practice thing, or if you want to even put that more into the season as well.
That's just on this trip. But
Just on this trip, okay.
Yeah, but I'm loud. I think you figured that one out by now. So people think because I'm loud, I micromanage and I'm this dictator that just wants to control everything. I'm into investing trust in people and giving people responsibility and letting them work. And that's how I treat our players. That's how I treat our coaches. And the players, the coaches, the staff, they've all worked their tails off to help us succeed here. Matt Figard deserves a head coaching job. He's earned it. I mean, we set a school record for wins at K-State. We set a school record for wins here. And that dude's been right next to me every step of the way. He deserves an opportunity. Well, this allows them to get more prepared for that moment. Calling timeout, scheduling a practice. Like he'd schedule the practices. I'll sit there and I'll see what he's doing. He knows our system, so it's not like he's going to run something completely different, but it's going to be his flavor. And that's great for him. And it's also good for the players. They get to follow a little bit of a different twist. You know, it's and then Bruce, being new, gives them the ability to be more vocal. That way he doesn't feel like, well, Frank's talking, I got to kind of stand in the background. It makes our players learn to hear his voice. And same thing with Perry Clark. You know, Perry that's where Perry's been great. Perry's been an unbelievable confidant to Lamont, Matt, and myself. But now with Lamont's voice gone, now it allows Perry's voice to become stronger. And so I think it's all a good thing. But that wouldn't be for October, November, and December.
Okay.
Even though I still let them work, I don't, like if they got something they got to teach, they need to go teach it. If they stand on the side and fold their arms, I usually walk by them and I'm like, hey, really, man? Really? These kids need you, man, really? And so it's all part of it. It's like I said, this is the first time I do it. Run practices at this time of year and conduct a team trip. So it's new for me too, and I'm gonna manage it the way I think it needs to be managed. I can't guarantee you it's gonna be the right way. You know, I might come back in October and say, hey, I wish I would have done this differently, but that's what we're gonna try, I think.
Frank, the momentum of things, the 25 wins, the contract extension, things like that. How has that been received when you've gone out and talked to recruits and players across the country?
Yeah, I think that's just everything improves accordingly. You know, recruiting's never easy. People think, you hear people say, I wish I coached at such and such a school. Recruiting's easy. Really? I don't care what school you're at, recruiting is hard. And it's not getting easier, it's getting harder in recruiting. And but we're in a place now where we're being able to get involved with, I don't know how to say this, because I'm not a rankings guy and all that stuff. I'm all for people making money in life. They're not going to take my money with that stuff. The guys that are highly publicized, when we call, there's an interest. The guys engage in conversations with us. Before, nobody would talk to us. You know, now we can get in conversations, and we're getting deeper in the recruiting process. And the deeper you get in the recruiting process, the more of a relationship you build, the more open they are to see what you're about. That gives you a chance. I'm real happy with the guys that we're involved with right now. You know, we've got a rock solid group of guys that we're chasing around this summer, and I've gotten to know them as people because we're not having to recruit a point guard, a shooting guard, an athlete, a rebounder, a center, a shot blocker, like we've been for 4 years. Now we're starting to identify, okay, in this class we need this, in this class so we're not having to recruit a pool this big. We're able to reduce the size, which allows you to get to know these people a little better. And but I think it's all connected. I really do. I really do.
How are you guys going to protect against the Zika virus while you're down in Costa Rica?
Interesting. I just pray. And I don't say that, you know, there's people who live there. that won't be affected by it. And there's people who live in countries that that's not a problem, who do get affected by it. So, you know, it's you got to kind of cross your hands and kind of look up there and ask them to protect us and look out for us and be careful. You know, be very careful with how we do things, where we go, and you know, I was just a friend of mine. I was just with in Spain, one of the places I've been recruiting, and he said that a mutual friend of ours just came out of a coma from encephalitis, and he got bit hanging out in his backyard in Key Largo. Think about that, you know, and it just, you don't know. You can't control those things. The one thing you can't do in life is live scared. You can't. You got to be careful. You got to protect yourself, but you got to be willing to live life. And that's why going to the other side of the world, I didn't think our players, I would be okay with it, but I don't. They're so young, and they're so impressioned, you know, with what they see on TV every day, and so that's created such an impression on them that I didn't think they'd be comfortable doing that. So rather than expose them to something that they wouldn't be comfortable with, we did something in Costa Rica.
With everything going on now, you mentioned on TV, do you talk to your players about things like that, or do you wait for them to come to you, or do you engage in that conversation?
A little bit of both. Usually, when something happens like what took place in Dallas and Minnesota and all that, I have a responsibility two reasons. Number one, they have the right to express themselves however they choose to. That's their right in life. I also have a responsibility to help them understand that those are isolated situations and they don't need to make general comments that's going to misrepresent them and their families based on the way they express themselves, whether it be social media, verbally, whatever. You know, and those are great educational moments. See, all the guys on our team, I was coaching high school basketball before they were born, so I understand a little better than them, not as well as the people that are older than I am, how it used to be. And I think if you follow me on Twitter, which I think you do, I think you saw something I put on Twitter. We've come a long ways. We still have a long ways to go. Let's not act like we have not made progress. Let's not act like our country is upside down. Are there issues? Of course there are. Those issues are, I think, isolated, and we need to fix them. But I'm not into generalization. That's like when we're in the middle of the season, we have a bad game, and somebody that sees us for the first time wants to sit in there and ask me a question that our team stinks. Now, our team don't stink. We had a bad day. Okay, our team don't stink, and this, you know, it's I have a responsibility to talk to our players about those things, because if they say the wrong thing, they have to own up to it. So they're going to have to look you in the eye when you ask them a question, and they're going to have to express what they meant. If they handle things the right way, then they can be leaders in this community about all the good. It's like everything else in the world, man. You can do 99 things right, and you do one wrong thing, and it's going to eliminate all the good you've done. I have to help our guys understand that.